All right, so we're going to go over some final thoughts about the submersible issue. We're going to go over my thoughts on Andrew Tate, and then I've got some thoughts in general that we're going to go over. Welcome back. Thanks for stopping by. 2 hands and a foot. We won't tell you who's who. Before we get started, though, I really would appreciate it if you would click that like button, click that subscribe button, click that notification bell, and then most importantly, share this with your friends so we can get bigger and better at this. All right, let's get into it. So we just found out recently that the 5 individuals who went down to that submersible to go check out the Titanic are dead. That the submersible imploded, and thankfully, the only way that we can be thankful of this is it wasn't very, very painful. It was rather instant. In less than a blink of an eye, they were dead. So, at least that's what the information is telling us. So, how do we grasp this? Well, first and foremost, 5 people are dead. That's a tragedy. Nothing should be laughed about, regardless of where you sit on wherever. Who cares that the guy was a billionaire, that one of the guys in there is a billionaire, and who cares that it's the rich CEO? Who cares? 5 lives were tragically lost. Doing something that they had a passion for, which is studying the depths of the ocean and the Titanic and everything like that. So that's that. The other side of that coin is it was an experimental submersible. So there's ideas and patterns of maybe not necessarily having the best materials from which to create a submersible. I think they're making too big of a deal of the fact that it was controlled by a remote controller. I think as long as it works, it doesn't matter how big the controls are. So I don't think that has anything to do with it, but it was experimental. I think they all knew that. I think they didn't expect to die on this, but I think that obviously that was a thought that could possibly happen. They signed the paperwork for it, but the amount of accusations of neglect going into this, to include going down on a day that there was a break in the weather, and it was told that this might have been the only window that they had to dive like this. So where do you go with that information? Well, you do what anybody does in a situation where an experiment goes wrong, where the attempt to improve on a concept goes wrong. I mean, we still lose airplanes to this day, and we've been flying for well over a century. And imagine the times that people tried to fly beforehand. How many people were hurt and injured and killed as a result of trying to do that? How many people died trying to break records? It happens. It's still tragic, but it happens. And they're pushing the edge of. And so you learn from those mistakes. Were mistakes made? I don't know the extreme details of all that went into building that device. And so we have people who are relatively, respected experts. We think of James Cameron he's a director and a producer and did the movie Titanic, but he actually has done a great number of submersible dives, plenty down to Titanic. And so he is a subject matter expert. I don't know if he would be a technical expert or an engineering expert, but he is a subject matter expert and definitely someone that I would rely on for reliable information. Again, he had his reservations. There's a video of him posting his reservations that's going around online now about what's going on. Another adventurer / explorer / engineer, archaeologist, and excitement guy, Josh Gates. You may not know him, but if you, I advise you to watch Expedition Unknown is the show that he's most famous for. He does a few others, but he goes around the world and he does expeditions and searches for things that people don't have the opportunity, that regular people like me don't have the opportunity to go chasing after. And he does extraordinary things, from diving into the ocean to climbing tall mountains to dealing with wild animals and everything in between all of those things. And he gave his reservations about dealing with this particular type of submersible. But does that mean that the show shouldn't have gone on? Well, I mean, we've got people who are giving their opinions and such, and I believe both James Cameron and Josh Gates were invited to go down in this submersible, either on this adventure or on ones previously, but they decided against it because their reservations told them it wasn't good enough for them. But we have that information as well in this, and so we have to learn from this. It's tragic. 5 people died. It's nothing to laugh about. Nothing to scoff at. It's the endeavor itself, the idea itself to go down into the depths of the ocean, 2 to 2.5 miles down, to see history. I mean, it'll take another couple hundred years before the Titanic's completely gone down there, but still, the idea of going somewhere where not a whole lot of people have gone before. I mean, Star Trek, space, the final frontier. You know, boldly going where no man has gone before. But it's a catchy phrase, but it's true. The dream and the hope, the desire to explore should be within everybody. Not necessarily everybody should be wanting to go into space or wanting to go to the depths of the ocean, but the desire to get out and to go explore should be within everybody. And some people have the desire to go down to the depths of the ocean. I myself, no thanks. I'm okay with staying on dry land. I'm okay with that. I would, Josh Gates, it's a plug. If you would have me on your show and be your co-host, I'll do everything but get in the water. I'll go everywhere else with you, and I'll be on the boat with you with a life vest on as you get in the water. But I'll do that. So if anybody knows Josh Gates, send him the video and we'll get that going, and I'll hop on. But anyway, we have that desire to explore, to do things, to research things that are beyond our understanding, and I think that's admirable. The way they went about it, maybe not so much. But let's admire the ability and the desire to go do so. Now let's learn our technical stuff. Why did the device implode? You know, what needs to happen to determine whether or not that material can withstand that pressure? And do that. Focus on that. Get better at it. And then move on from there, and then do it again, and then do it again, and then do it again. And we'll learn. We'll go from there, and we'll see things differently. You know, who knows? Who knows? 30 years ago, a spaceship to Mars was unfathomable. But now they're skimming through candidates because it's almost to the point of being possible. Imagine that. Now we're going to apply the same thing to going down into the ocean. To maybe one day, in whatever suit we can design, that someone can walk out from one of those submersible devices and actually walk among the wreckage of the Titanic and others, But the Titanic is the famous one, and is the one we're talking about now. But others, and to be among, instead of just having a thick wall in front of you, but be among that depth, and to come back and tell us about that solitude that you would imagine it would be. I mean, you see it in the movies, all this kind of special effects and stuff, but I don't think it comes anywhere close to what it actually feels like to be down there. I mean, you can ask James Cameron; he's been down there plenty of times, but I wonder what it would be like to be outside of that submersible. I want to hear about it. I don't actually physically want to know. But to be outside of that submersible and to be totally alone in the depths, I think that would be kind of cool to hear that story. Again, I'm good with being on dry land. I'm good with that. Moving on. A big sensation. Overnight sensation, you some could call it, but now he's having legal troubles. Andrew Tate. I'll say this. I understand why people are drawn to that. I don't necessarily agree, but I understand. And for those of you who don't know Andrew Tate, I had to do some research on him, but he hopped onto the kickboxing scene in around 2006 or 2009, somewhere in there, and did rather well. Had a pretty good record. He dabbled in MMA, but he was a kickboxer. Did really, really well. But then he started to have diarrhea of the mouth. At least that's what I call it. And his extremely women being used as objects type of language. Now, I'll say this, is he's in trouble right now with the Romanian law for sex trafficking and all of that. And if you've ever heard any interview that he's ever given, he is not ashamed to let you know that he uses women and essentially treats them as objects as opposed to human beings. And so it's not hard to go, well, he's saying these things, now you're accusing him of actually sex trafficking. It's not a far gap in there. Now, is he sex trafficking? I'm not the judge and jury in this one. But I'll tell you about his character. He's a punk. He's an absolute punk. And he needs to learn the proper way to treat a woman. That being said, I understand, like I said, I understand the draw that he has. Because for so long now, men have been given the raw end of the deal. Treated as toxic. You need to be more feminine. You need to not be like a regular man because that's bad. We've been the butt of every joke. The trope of every movie, TV show. And people are tired of it. Men are tired of it. And so, just like any other knee-jerk reaction, it's the forceful kick. And oh man, yes, he's saying what we feel. We shouldn't be demeaned for being men. And that's where the agreement stops. At least with me. And every other smart, intelligent, and proper man out there. Yeah, men shouldn't be demeaned. But dude, the way you're going about it is 100% wrong. Women are not objects. They're not property. Not every woman is out to get you. And if you think that by paying them, they can now get more women to have sex with you, you're an idiot. Whether it works, you think, or not, you're an idiot. Men and women complement each other. Men shouldn't be dominating women, and women shouldn't be dominating men. Men and women complement each other. Get over it, Andrew Tate. Whether or not you actually committed those crimes, your mouth is getting you in trouble. Your stupidity is getting you in trouble. I believe innocent until proven guilty. I don't want to believe that he has committed sex trafficking. That's ridiculously wrong. But it's not hard to comprehend that it is possible because of what he said, because of what he has said about women, and the ease with which he can do things in Romania versus England, where he's lived for a while. So, like I said, I understand the drive of what made him popular, of bucking the trend of men being demeaned. So stop demeaning men. But now he's going on an exorbitant amount of time of being misogynistic in the actual sense of the term. Not what the leftists say, but in the actual sense of the term. The actual meaning of it. And so, appearances, yes. I don't want to step on this man's toes because I respect him. But somebody had once said that, appearances, perception is... He argued against the phrase perception is everything. And I understand this man's point. Because reality is reality. No matter what anybody says, no matter how you perceive it, reality is reality. So, in the context of what is actually there, what's 100% verifiably true, where it's perception is everything, is... You have to acknowledge that in the day and age in which we live right now. Because no matter what, until the establishment changes, perception is everything. They're going to ruin you no matter what the truth is. They're going to try and ruin you. Classic example, regardless of whether or not you are a Trump fan. But this thing with Jeffrey Epstein. And they were throwing out these high names that were Democrats. And they were going, well, Trump knew him too, but Trump disavowed him before he did any of that crap. So now they're not saying anything about it anymore because they just went hush-hush on it. But they started to demean him because they didn't like the perception. And the perception is that he was a womanizer because of the locker room talk that he had spouted in 2015 about where he should be touching a woman in order to turn them on. So, regardless of that stupid thing that came out of his mouth, the perception is that since he said that, he must have been involved with Jeffrey Epstein on Pedophile Island. Well, we all know he wasn't, but it doesn't matter. People believe perception, so they go after you and hound until, the rest of everybody believes it. So, the perception of Andrew Tate being a sex trafficker is not hard to jump to from his statements. and the lifestyle he lives of sleeping with anybody that would sleep with him. He's got tons of money, so he can get all the girls he wants. I don't approve of that lifestyle either, but you say the things you say and you do those things that you do, and it's not a hard jump to sit there and say, oh, he's a sex trafficker now. Again, I believe innocent until proven guilty. Show me the crime and I'll be rattling right along beside you saying, punish the man. But as stupid as he is, as punkish as he is, as absolutely foolishly, childishly, jerkishly dumb as he is, innocent until proven guilty. But he's still stupid, and he's still dumb, he's still ignorant, he still deserves to be smacked for the stupidity that comes out of his mouth. But there you go. Whew! Okay. Off of that high horse here. Speaking of accountability and people and all that kind of stuff, we sit here and everybody says there's a two-tiered system of justice that's going on. We have the Biden family and all the crimes that they're committing, and nobody's touching them, and slap on the wrist for Hunter, and the double standards between them and regular people that have come now forward and said the same charges and the same crimes and all that kind of stuff and doing whatever. Kind of bugs me. The idea that the administration knew that the submersible had imploded back on Sunday and didn't say anything because that story was covering the news as opposed to the news about Hunter and stuff going along with that. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. The thought on that is that I think they believe that the Democrat Party believes that RFK Jr. is a viable Democratic candidate that I think that can win over some Democrats. To do one of two things. One, actually win the nomination. Take the nomination away from the current guy sitting in the White House. Two, if he doesn't get the nomination, running independent and taking enough votes away to actually allow the Republicans to win, similar to what Ross Perot was back in the day in the early 90s. So RFK Jr., he looks good. He does. That's an amazing thing is that the Democrat Party has gone so far left that RFK Jr. looks like a good option. Now, I'm not saying anything negative about his moral character because I don't know the man personally. But for me, he's still a Democrat. And so he still stands for things in which I do not believe. Now, for me, that means discussion. I'm okay with discussion. But I think there still are too many conservatives who have the live and let live idea mentality. And I'm not saying we should force anything on anybody. That's the extreme of everything. That's of live and let live. But I also don't think we should live and let live in the sense that everybody wants to have that. If you want to go ahead and believe things and want to operate in your own life and doing things, go for it. But realize that those things are still, no matter, we're not going to make them illegal. Those beliefs, having those beliefs, we're not going to make having those beliefs illegal. But that doesn't mean that we have to acknowledge that they're still not true. They're still not healthy or morally right. They're not true, they're not healthy, and they're not morally right. So, where do we go with that? Live and let live. Man, live and let live. We can't force them to believe the way that we want them to believe. I'm not saying do that at all. I'm not. It sounds like I am, and you're going to take that the wrong way. I'm not saying it for anybody to live the way that I live. I mentioned a few episodes back about people saying that I could be narrow-minded. Well, no, it's a narrow point of view, because truly open-minded people have a narrow point of view, because they see everything, and then they see what works and what doesn't work, and then they focus on what works. They focus on what's true. And so that's what has to happen. And we don't need to be catering for things. So what people want to do, what people think and what people believe, we're not about controlling that. But there has to be standards. There has to be a standard of living. And so, well, live and let live. Well, that live and let live phrase got us to this point where pedophilia is being made to be normal. The live and let live. That phrase 30 years ago is the reason that pedophilia today is now being argued as something normal. Just like children push up against boundaries to see how far you'll let that boundary out, or what they can do to hit that boundary and what consequences are. How many times I got to hit that boundary? Just like children, evil does the same thing. Immorality does the same thing. It pushes them against the edge of the live and let live to see, oh, you'll allow this? Well, this is similar. Okay, we'll add that. Oh, you're now allowing that? Now this is similar. Tail it back a little bit. How about this? Okay, we'll allow that. Until you get down to pedophilia is normal. And it's not. The same thing with the covenant between a man and a woman in marriage. Oh, we'll allow this, we'll allow this, we'll allow this. Now we have no-fault divorces. Again, I'm not saying that circumstances are difficult. And I can cover all of that in another episode. But what I'm saying is that we've gone from live and let live down to this. We've gone to live and let live, taxing everything to death. You know, spoiler alert, the income tax wasn't supposed to be permanent. We were supposed to raise taxes for wartime, and we didn't stop. And then they kept adding on taxes. You get taxed for being taxed, and tax for all of this, and tax for that, and tax for this, and we're going to tax them for that. You die, you get taxed. You're born, you get taxed. You get taxed on your income, then you get taxed on... It's amazing how many taxes are going around. But that's what happens when you do the live and let live without saying, yes, we'll let you live how you want to live. If you want to do that, but we're not going to promote it. Because it's not true, it's not healthy, it's not morally right. This is what is true, this is what's healthy, and this is what's morally right. And we're going to promote that. We're not going to criminalize your thoughts. But just like when someone says 2 plus 2 is 5, that's wrong. That's wrong. 2 plus 2 is not 5. 2 plus 2 is 4. You can believe that 2 plus 2 is 5 all day long. I don't want to criminalize you for thinking that. But you're wrong. And we shouldn't be promoting that. That being said, I want to take a step back here for a minute. And I want to let you know what I think some more about all of this and how I manage this. Yes, this rifles me up a little bit. This ruffles my feathers and it gets me going a little bit. Because I'm passionate about the truth. I am. But in that, it's really easy to lose sight of what is important. And that is what's right in front of you. Whether it's your spouse or your family or your friends or your job or your hobbies, you are not guaranteed tomorrow. You could not wake up tomorrow morning. It's possible. People die every day. You're not guaranteed tomorrow. So, yes, it's good to make plans. It's good to think about, to plan for, to worry about sometimes, to discuss the future and potential and problem solve and logistics and all that stuff. But I say don't do that at the expense of what's in front of you. Those relationships that you have with people. John Lennon wrote a song for his son. And there's a line in it. The song is Beautiful Boy. Well, there's a line in it that says, life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. The cliche is stop and smell the roses. Sometimes you just need to focus on what's going on in front of you. What can you control right now? What can you do right now to make a difference? Whether it's you're going to the store and you're in the checkout line and you can see the cashier has had a long day and you smile big and bright and ask them how they're doing and chit-chat with them for a half a minute while they're checking you out. Or whether it's you're driving along in your car and traffic is going and you got your radio up and it's hot outside, but you know what? You see that someone's been waiting for a couple of cars that aren't letting them cut in or cut across and go the opposite direction, and you do that favor for them. You either wave them through or you stop and let them cut across and go to the other lane or what have you. You be nice in traffic. Make just something small. You don't have to, cure cancer in a day. They got people who are doing that. Trying to. But focus on what you can do today to make a difference. A positive difference in somebody else's life. Whether it's you're walking out your house and a neighbor that you've been living next to for 10, 15 years and you haven't talked to because you're not a friendly person, smile and wave at them. Ask them how they're doing. I'm not saying go be best friends, but blow their socks off by being somebody nicer. Take your kids out for a walk instead of letting them be on electronics. They spend enough time on electronics as it is. Let them run around. Be nice to them, even if they don't like it, because you know that that's good for them, going out for a walk as opposed to being cooped up inside. Spend that time with your family. Do something nice for somebody. Life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. If you're so focused on all of these things that we talked about today and the things that we mentioned on this podcast beforehand or what have you, the problems that are going on in your life, yes, those sometimes are important to talk about and discuss and to think about, but don't solely think about that at the expense of what's actually going on. What's right then and there. You know, again, another cliche, live in the moment. Sort of. Don't overlook what's right there in front of you that can bring joy into your life. So that's what I got to say about that. So that's all I got for today. I hope you enjoy it. Again, follow me on Twitter. Share this with all your friends. And I'll catch you on the flip side.